What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Whiskey Wednesday. I think this is number 5. Man, we've really ran through the gambit, and number 5 is going to be really special because, as you can tell, there's not actually a bottle here. And we have our old Rip Van Winkle distillery glass out, which indicates one thing, that it's a Sazerac product, because we have a Sazerac glass. Now, it is not actually Old Red Van Winkle, and it's not a Pappy Van Winkle, but it is of that generation, of that group, of those peoples. Now, the reason we don't have a bottle is because a buddy of mine gave me this sample, which I've now poured into this glass, which there seems to be just a little bit left. And if you got a good eyesight, maybe you would see that it says Blanton's. And it's not just any Blanton's, it's Blanton's with a dump date of 1990, which is 30 years ago. That was 30 years ago they dumped that whiskey. And it's been sitting in a bottle for 30 years. And I am super excited to taste this. I've had the chance to taste a lot of antique whiskey or vintage whiskey, dusty whiskey as a lot of people call it. None of them have been Blanton's, so that's super exciting. Classic standard Blanton's with it being warehouse aged, 93 proof. But I believe that it was Elmer T. Lee that distilled and picked this whiskey. I think that's right in the timeline, Elmer T. Lee. Some of you guys may not know about Elmer T. Lee. He was the previous head distiller at Buffalo Trace Distillery, and then passed away in 2013, and his namesake bourbon has been very difficult to come by ever since. Man, out of the gate, like, the color on this is fantastic. We have no worry of this being damaged, because there's not like that opaque, like funky look to the whiskey that you get sometimes when if people don't take care of vintage whiskey. It doesn't necessarily go bad, but it will become cloudy, or you'll see floaters in it. That's an indication that it's not in its prime. This whiskey was taken great care of. I would say it was probably in somebody's liquor cabinet. Knowing our friend Travis, I believe that he has a friend who used to work at the distillery years ago, put a bunch of stuff back, doesn't actually drink bourbon, and I think Travis was able to get some really awesome stuff from him, because Travis is a big whiskey nerd. Right out of the gate, I mean, the nose is, out of this world good. Just like this ripe fruit. You really get like those really awesome ligand notes from like the caramelization of the wood. Man, and just like this awesome baking spice profile. This is really great. I'm really glad that I got this sample from him, because I think if I would have found a Blanton's from 1990, I don't think I would have opened it. I think I probably would have traded it or sold it to Justin's House of Bourbon or somebody like that and gotten some money out of it and cut the deal. But now that we're here, let's go ahead and taste it and see what this tastes like, because this anticipation is killing me. Whoa. I've tasted a fair amount of Blanton's. I've done some Blanton's picks where I've went to Buffalo Trace and, whiskey thieved right out of the barrel some Blanton's and tasted it at, 136 proof. I've had Blanton's straight from the barrel. I've had Blanton's Gold. I've had a lot of things with the Blanton's name to it. And this is by far as good as anything I've ever had from the Buffalo Trace Distillery. That includes Pappy Van Winkle's, that includes Buffalo Trace Antique Collections, Weller picks. I mean, it's obviously different than the Weller line. Whoa. I can see why people would want to spend a bunch of money on this. Like, I personally, I feel like there's a point of diminishing returns with whiskey pricing, and to me, this is probably, I don't know what the secondary market value for a Blanton's that was done 30 years ago would run. But man, they don't make whiskey like they used to, that's for sure. I took a giant gulp on the first run. I probably shouldn't have. I probably should have really savored this. Everything that you get on the nose comes through in the palate, and it's really complex because it's not like you're picking out like small little things here and there, and it like stepping stones up or stepping stones down. It's like everything all at once with this like rich complexity that kind of goes up like a roller coaster and then right down and then kind of tapers off from the center of the palate out, and it sticks on the center of the palate all the way through. With like this really awesome, almost like honey kind of taste, like honeycomb right in the middle. And on into the finish with the baking spice, with like a little bit of leather, man. And it just keeps coming on the finish. Like, I feel like if they made Blantons like this today, I would understand why people stand in line for it. That being said, I mean, I hate to like dog like modern day Blantons. That's not what I'm trying to do. But this is way better. Like, I think Blanton's is great because people really appreciate the marketing of Blanton's and the horse on top and the round bottle, and it's hard to come by and it's hard to find, and people, you know, look at the dump dates and they get really excited. You know, I had this event happen on this day and I'm looking for this dump date, and it's almost became like this commemorative bottle within the whiskey world. Man, if they just made it like a little bit harder to find and they were a little more selective about the barrels. I mean, I've picked 2 barrels of Blanton's now, and out of the multiple Blantons I've tasted, nothing quite comes close to this. I'm gonna guess this is probably a little bit older than the average like 6 to 7 year age range, or sometimes they get up to 8, just based off complexity alone. I could be wrong though, I don't know. I think it would be worth contacting Buffalo Trace and finding out, and if we do, we may do a follow-up episode on that. But all in all, thanks for joining us for Whiskey Wednesday. Thanks for being part of this experience with me. This was it's great. I love vintage whiskey. If you guys care to, you know, subscribe, like, comment if you can. If you want to send us some vintage whiskey and you're out there in the world, just send us an email, and we'll try and work something out. If you just want to send us some love, you can comment or send us an email as well. Thanks for hanging out with us. Water and Roots Bartending. Cheers, guys.